All right, Cody. All right, I will call this meeting of the Municipal Fire Commission to order at 6:06. I'll do the roll call. Let's see who we're working with tonight. Hillary Lima, absent. John Paul Verducci here. Lieutenant McCann.
Here.
Captain McAloon.
Here.
Russ McGilvery. Peter Rondo. Jillian Weinmiller. Daniel Perillo. Robert Savetti. And Stephen Angel is absent. All right, let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. In the event of an emergency, we will exit out these doors behind the council chambers and exit out the doors labeled 1 and 2. All right, our first item on the agenda is meeting minutes from prior meetings. We have June 26th and July 10th. I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes as a block.
Chairman, I don't believe all the minutes were sent out to all the members.
Oh,
I got them right. Yeah, I think we're still working on those.
no, all right.
So I'm not sure how we can continue it because this is supposedly our last meeting, so I'll have to get some follow-up on how we can handle it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit, I guess, as far as what we're going to do tonight. Thank you for that. All right, we'll skip that for now. We'll put those on hold, and we will move over to public comment. If there's anybody in the room here with us that would like to make public comment, please come on up, state your name and address for the record, and make sure the microphone is on.
Steve Bosque, 8 Raven Boulevard, Coventry, Rhode Island. And I just had a couple of comments as far as I highlighted a few things on the packet that either I thought should be at least spoken to or possibly get some answers on. So I'll go in order of the packet. It's kind of how I had set it up. On or after page 7, which is agenda item hashtag 3-A, I guess. It's your scope and deliverables. The first 3 things, the acquisition of inventory of property, you guys never even went over. I mean, there was no acquisition discussion at all from the committee. It's not even highlighted in the comments or write-ups at the end of the report. So I don't quite get how, that could be a big price tag item, and it's never mentioned even in what you're going to show to the town council. Same thing with even acquisition of inventory of assets, including equipment and apparatus. I mean, you've inventoried the apparatus and you've priced out the apparatus, but there's been no discussions about acquisition as far as what that looks like or what that would cost. So that was on that page as far as pieces that I had just statements. It should at least be explained somewhere in your finalizations that, listen, this potentially could be a big number and it could skew as far as you're putting in property tax rates and all other sort of things. And it is something that I think should at least be looked at. The other thing is on staffing. Bear with me as we roll through this here. Okay, and you're using a 58-man guide as far as for phase 1. And it looks like the idea is to increase at least 4 full-time people, most likely going to Anthony, so that they can get a second apparatus out. But when you go to the breakdown of staffing, you're showing 2 fire marshals as part of that, as well as the chief. So if those fire marshals are not responders on a truck, you don't even have enough to accomplish the goal that you put in there for. You need the 56 to get out. Let's see, I had it at, I'll tell you what page I'm looking at. Sorry, it's further down than I thought. One moment. We get close. No. Okay, yeah, so on, I guess it would probably be about page 20. It says agenda item hashtag 3.a. So I don't know if that's what all the pieces that were put in there, though. It, for a 57-person crew, they're showing 4 division chief assistants, 8 captains, 8 lieutenants, 34 firefighters, 2 fire marshals, 1 chief, which is 57 total. So I thought, and I know, Dan, you were active about having a full-time fire marshal, and I can't see someone that's on a 24-hour shift being one of the people that are the responders. So that leaves you 2 short from being able to make your goal of having 4 pieces of equipment out. I mean, the extra piece of equipment out. It's not 4 firefighters. You're adding 2 fire marshals and a chief. I was just, I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it's just going off this sheet. The other thing on the savings, as far as the department goes, I thought that a couple things understated, and I had talked, David, and we've had a roundtable before on it. You're showing a lawyer fee of $50,000 a year, and there's no way in the first few years that that's going to be a $50,000 fee. I could see down the road it being a much more streamlined in eventual savings, but I think the numbers in your spreadsheets are showing $50,000 for a total district under legal, and generally there are some departments that use that on itself, but I would think between acquisitions and contracts and everything else that would have to go through in the first couple of years, that there's no way you're going to do that at $50,000. And just checking, I couldn't find the Coventry's audit contract, but talking to our audit company and looking at some of the other agreements that other places have had, I still don't think it's going to be a 0 cost for an audit, which is something that is in there. And the chief's salary of the department is rated at like 90 some odd $1,000. And, you know, that's going to easily be north of 130 to 150 as far as costs go. That, the only other thing I have, I thought that on, let's get down to the end here. As far as the tax rate itself that you're showing, was not put in there is, and I hope some of the people that came to Susie Q's opening there in Western Coventry, you're showing the difference in the increase at 7.77%, which I think would be greater because I think the numbers you're using are a little bit low. But at 7.77%, the businesses in Western Coventry will be seeing about a 35% tax increase on their fire tax. So we don't have a commercial rate. So right off the bat, it's 25% plus the 7.77. You know, and I can tell you some of those little businesses are struggling. So just, you know, little piece that's not even shown on the report, what the commercial rate in Western Coventry will be for that. And the only other thing, one of the comments that was in there is like, one of the highlights of having this is that the districts that have a higher tax burden, it will be more evened out. Well, negative on that is the districts, central and ours, would be being hit pretty hard with an increase for some things that we never controlled. The last thing on the descriptions of possible setups where you have pros and cons. One of the last ones is Municipal Department of East only. If you had an Eastern Municipal Department in Western Coventry stays itself, it's like negative fragmentation remains. That's true. Western Coventry under-resourcing continues. I mean, under-resourcing for Western Rhode Island, we're one of the highest resource departments. Per capita in this town, we're probably one of the highest resourced we have no issues with resourcing. When we've gone to our taxpayers with explanations, we've never been refused. I think that's a negative shot, and I don't think that should be in there. Last year, we went out of district 508 times and received help 189 times. We're on about the same track for this year, and we were above that last year and the year before. So, our preponderance of how much we give to how much we get has been slanted where we're giving more than we're receiving. So, I mean, that shouldn't be in there. I get it. It's definitely compared to a town. Yeah, there's always something could happen, but that's just not a good look when it's supposed to be a neutral committee that's looking at something. And that's about all I had as far as things that I highlighted. So,
Thank you very much. Question for Manager Perillo. Did we establish at the beginning of this we could kind of waive some of the rules and do more conversational? Because I'd like to be able to address those public comments. I took some notes and just want to double check and see if anybody else is here for public comment, and then, have a little discussion and wrap that into the actual agenda item. So is there anyone else in the room on public comment? All right. If not, Cody, anybody on Zoom? Please come on in and state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Robert Heavey, 607 Weaver Hill Road, Coventry.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to comment. I made a comment at the last meeting that doesn't seem to have been addressed at all in the update. And that was the question of what the source of the approximately $4 million that the town's going to need to purchase the assets and resources and facilities of Western Coventry Fire that the taxpayers have already authorized to sell to the town. And all I heard was a little bit of discussion during the meeting on how it might not be 4 million, but a harder look since that number, it may actually be even more than 4 million. And the other question on the table to expand upon that is, will Hopkins Hill, which has quite the equity similar to Western Coventry, be doing the same thing? Because those are some major capital expenses that haven't been addressed in this report at all. And in reviewing the report, I was heavily disappointed to see that, since the last version of this, the only thing that's gone in there is a little bit of propaganda on the NFPA standard requirement that most towns in Rhode Island do not meet. And a lot of claims that are unsubstantiated and a lot of inconsistencies. It looks like a draft of a high school group project that never really was finished. And it'd be quite disappointment to present this to the people in the town council for a decision at this point. And, if it was a college level thing, which I've had to do many times, if I presented something like this to a professor, I would have gotten an F for it. And just have that to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heavey. Anyone else on Zoom? No. All right. So thank you all for the public. So, if it's okay with everybody here, I wanted to say something first. Tonight, I think, by the legislation that was established, we owe the town council an update of some kind. I don't personally feel we're 100% there yet on what's in here. There's obviously even a section, talking about things we still need to work on. But, I think what we were charged with originally is to kind of get something to the town council to start guiding the process. I personally would like to kind of mark this draft, get all these questions and answers tonight. Obviously, I don't want to stop the ball from rolling. The commission has an end cycle. I don't want to keep dragging this out just to keep rehashing the same stuff. So there obviously are some questions we need answered, and I can appreciate that. And certainly some of the stuff that was brought up tonight, we can talk about now. And then I think what we're kind of thinking about doing is, giving this to the town council, asking them, what are the holes that you see you want the more information on? Recognizing this is still going to be a working document, there are a couple more pieces we need, so we don't have to keep regurgitating the same stuff in meeting. And, this was, according to the enabling legislation, meant to be a report on options, not, telling you exactly what to do. So just keeping that in mind, I'd like to open up the discussion tonight. The agenda item is pretty vague. We get to discuss basically everything that's on here is up for grabs. I'll leave it up to you all if you wanna. We can start. I think Mr. Bousquet brought up a couple of big ticket items, as well as Mr. Heavy, both monetarily and perhaps policy wise, that I think not only the residents but also council members, especially we've got a couple of new ones, would be looking for a little more info on. So, you know, we can start kind of talking about the acquisition. Did come up in both public comments. When we last left off, I do believe we were going to make a note at least about the 4 million. Again, that's a policy. There's feelings about, why we would do that, whether it makes sense or not. But if it's something that's on the table, that may belong in here somewhere as at least, I'll take any suggestions you have. If we want to do a section on risks, things like that. Come back up, yeah.
I wasn't so much looking for the monetary. I know Bob had mentioned numbers and stuff, but I think the point should be made that there could be some hefty acquisition, however, is general terms, but I don't see it anywhere in there noted that could be something that is out there.
Yeah, no, you gave me the idea to even, some type of risk register, just to put these things in there, just to be completely intellectually honest with each element of the report. We also discussed the staffing. I wasn't quite sure where we landed on that one. So we were talking about the fire marshals last time. The 2 fire marshals would not be in the response efforts. And is that what I was getting from you? So that true staffing number would actually be a little lower and may not allow us to operate as we have presented it. Anybody here have feedback on that one?
I mean, we definitely want to have one full-time fire marshal. I mean, that secondary position, I mean, again, this is not my area of expertise, but I can't see why that person may be able to be what the lieutenant is now. He does both. So that secondary person may be able to handle both of those responsibilities. But again, that's not my area of expertise, but that's what we do now. But definitely we need one full-time fire marshal for the town, for sure.
So, in the 2 neighboring towns I've experienced with West Warwick and both East Greenwich, if there was an incident during the day, those fire marshals will respond. Either, and then assume other positions, safety officer, whatever the chief would assign them to take care of. So they are certified, full-time firefighters, as well as having that collateral duty as being assigned the fire marshal. But they're, they may not be part of the day-to-day staffing, so to speak, as far as people on the fire trucks, but they still would respond to active emergencies in town if they're available.
Thank you for that. Anyone else on the fire marshal topic? Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. That's interesting. So, with all of the development and the other things going on, I can only imagine, that's something we may have to grow into as well, just to kind of keep, the day-to-day stuff moving. But in the event of an emergency, they're, fully licensed firefighter professionals.
I'll throw a couple of things out there. The position is needed, we know that, okay? The comments that are put out there, I think it's just a lack of misunderstanding how that division works. It could take me a whole another month to put a work study together on how much work goes on in this town. Weekly, I'll have phone conversations from the state, and they're wondering, why still that the town of Coventry doesn't have anybody full-time. The state. Never mind the locals. And then some of our guys, we understand it's a budgetary problem. We just tried to attempt to fix it in Central again, but because of low funds that are available, we can't make that position full-time. But as far as townwide, there is just too much work out there for one guy. Never mind a guy doing it half the time.
Is there a revenue impact on that? Is there a fee?
There are fees that
Reviews,
are
yeah.
out there. There are fees that should be assessed that are not. We're still trying to iron that out, legal, as far as inspection fees. But as far as new construction, ongoing building projects, those fees are accounted for, and home sales.
Right. So, just because we talk about growing responsibly a lot of times, and, that's obviously a major consideration from both safety and, actual keeping the trains moving on time here.
Just if it's open, I'd like to ask, the Phase 1 service improvement, there's no mention of 2 fire marshals. I'm not sure where that came from. And I heard you say 2 chiefs also. The idea was to go to 1 chief. So I'm just wondering where each of those positions you listed as 2. Just curious, sir.
I didn't say 2 chiefs. I only said 1 chief. It said 2 fire marshals.
It's one fire marshal.
Right.
It's clearly.
And that was my question to the committee, was that on another page, it has the breakdown of position, and it shows 2 fire marshals and 1 chief. That, I told you it was page, I'll tell you where it is in your packet. Hold on 1
You're
second.
talking about Phase 2?
Phase 1. Phase 1. 1 second, I just had it and Okay, so if you go to your packet on page 19, the next page, it says agenda item. And then it says the staffing for 57. And it shows 2 fire marshals, 1 chief, 34 firefighters, 8 lieutenants, 8 captains, and 4 division chief assistants, whatever.
I'm working with pageless. I'm working with pageless ones here.
Yeah. Highlighted.
I know. Thank you. That, obviously something listed as an error according to the Phase 1, obviously.
Yeah, I asked the question, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I just, where it come from is all.
But even if it's 1 fire chief, I mean, one marshal, then that balance, you're still 1 person short from being able to get the extra truck out.
I apologize too. I'm looking at this in Phase 1 and Phase 2. I think we actually made changes that weren't illustrated in this. I didn't think the number 1 concern we had with Phase 1 was putting 8 firefighters at Central Coventry Station 7 to put Rescue 7 back in service. I know one of the first meetings we had, we talked about putting firefighters down in Anthony, and we talked about being more, it would be a better solution for the town to have a second full-time rescue in service.
I agree with you, but the report still says.
I know, and I apologize for that. I'm just seeing, I read through it this afternoon and I missed that. Because that was one of the number 1 concerns we had, is putting a second full-time rescue in service.
I had a couple comments too. I don't know if we're still going through those.
Yeah, no, I was going to say we've got, we're going to have technical corrections, like I think this one might be, and also to add page numbers to the report.
I even have a formatting.
So, and then I think we're gonna have, policy discussion, so, do we want to keep going on this topic, or is this on something else? Because I think that one we just maybe need to shift that personnel around, as you had described, but, yeah.
I think to Dan's point too, a lot of the tables, or info, what are they called, infograms, something, were used from Brian's, presentation, so. Right. Do we have access to that?
The files themselves, I thought they were in a repository somewhere, but I'm sure we can get them. If not, Dan can make really nice tables in Excel for us.
I can too, if you need any.
Okay, let's see. Did you have another comment you wanted to go for? Yeah, go for it.
We're good with those. I want to jump too far ahead. Some of them do mimic Steve. So my first one would be after, on the figure 1, inventory of apparatus across 4 fire districts. It's more of an OCD thing. Can westerns be justified to the left like the others, just so it's the same? And then also, we have some changes to this from the email I sent out. Since this last spreadsheet iteration, so we no longer have the 2013 rescue, so that can be removed. And then we also added a chief's SUV that I sent the information for as well. I believe that was last week, might have been the week before. The next comment I have kind of what Dan and I were just talking about. The paragraphs before figure 3, the proposed phase 1 service improvement. I think it's going to depend on what this shakes out to be, if it does get changed before we go to the town or not. But my comment was, could we also put in there that it'd be ultimately up to the chief to determine which station, whether it be 1 or 7.
I saw that note somewhere, but maybe it's somewhere else and we need to put it there too. So we'll double check.
It's in the doc. It says that
Yeah.
the chief will make staffing decisions.
Yeah, okay.
I was reading it.
Yeah, it's not
looked
there.
like we
You're
were.
right.
Yeah, so maybe
So,
maybe we need one big disclaimer or in each section. I'm fine either way.
and then I guess I'm kind of beating a dead horse with this, but in addition, could we also mention that there's mutual aid on the eastern end of town versus western, so like West Warwick is right there, that we don't, the mutual aid that we have isn't all full-time, so time-wise. And then it's not included, I know we talked about it, but in Western Coventry, we also have the aging population, so in addition to the increase of time, it also increase of age out there, which could, correct me if I'm wrong, but make calls a little bit weird.
And again, I apologize. Hillary asked me to put together basically run totals and response times for all the nursing homes and all the different locations in town, basically the hotspots in town. And I apologize. I thought that was in the agenda tonight, but it's not. And our scope was honestly, again, is to put the manpower where it's needed in the town for best response times, not just the eastern end of the town, but also the western end of the town. And the biggest thing that we've talked about, and I've talked about with Hillary on the side, is if Rescue 8 is at the hospital, my response time to their district is 18 minutes. That is unsatisfactory. That is not safe.
Okay.
And that was my concern. And then we talked about the second phase was putting Engine 8 in service as an ALS engine. So if Rescue 8 is at the hospital, Engine 8 responds to the call, stabilizes the patient until a transporting rescue gets. That was what we talked about with phase 2. And I apologize, that was written up. Is it in there? Okay.
That's Station 7, not 8.
Yep. And then phase 2 would be man and engine 8. Because our number one concern is response times to nursing homes in rural areas of Coventry. We cover, what, 64 square miles? We have one full-time rescue that covers 64 square miles, and then we cross-man the other rescues.
And you have a nursing home at the extreme ends of both ends. You have Riverview at one end and
Pine Acres.
Pine Acres is out there.
Which the runs have gone up, everywhere,
Yes.
tens of town.
Pine 2 out there.
Our biggest concern, and we've talked about this, I had a meeting with my guys last night, and one of the biggest concerns that we've talked about over the last couple of years is our response times. And if we have a severe incident in Coventry, God forbid we have 2 back to back. If I have a fire somewhere down in the eastern end and then Weston has a fire, what's going to be the response time for West Warwick or West Greenwich to get there and actually respond? And that was one of our number one concerns. It's not just the overall response, but a secondary response to a second incident. We've been lucky over the years. We keep rolling the dice, but having one rescue, and we keep rolling the dice.
It already happened. July 3rd.
So just,
So is there any way to put a second rescue in place right now?
With the manpower we have,
Mhm.
no, we'd have to take an engine out of service.
Well, the funding, there's no funding for.
There's no funding for it. And look, realistically, we don't have the manpower.
Central's putting on 5 more. 2 out of the 5 are gonna replace openings. That leaves us with 3. Where the stipulation states that's 3 extras, we don't count them as extras. We're still gonna be short, even if we were to put them on a truck, we're still short 5 to man that truck.
so, as we prepare to get something over to the town council, I think I've said this before for myself, but I think the other folks as well. The issues you just brought up right there, I think are going to be your main takeaways. We call 911, we expect someone to come one way or another. There's a financial discussion. There's a lot of things we can always, look at and pick apart. Even the phasing in here, I think, is basically to show what it would look like once or if this is actually formed. Again, you'd have chiefs at play and other things and other decisions and changing in populations. And, so I don't think these phases as represented here are necessarily, in stone. It's more to show what it would look like if you build up. So, I think, as I was reading this, something I want to keep coming back to is, really high level type statistics like those that grab your attention. Response time being, probably the biggest. So thank you for that. I think we should maybe beef that up and see what else we can put in there. So thank you.
A couple more too.
Keep it going. This alignment over here is sticking out like a sore thumb now. So thank you for that. This misalignment.
Sorry, I saw it and I couldn't unsee it. The proposed organizational chart, I have it on page 12, so I think it'd be 15 on your sheets. For Station 4, which is the current Station 8, this is a carryover from last time, but the tanker is not included. Just no hydrants out there, so we do rely on that. And then just kind of a general comment for this chart. I didn't see anything about like a marine. I know that we have some boats. I don't know where they are, but those should probably be listed on here as well. And Figure 2, which would be, I believe, page 10, the current staffing and operational model. The staffing for Western Coventry is not accurate. We have 1 captain, 4 firefighters, 3 per diem firefighters. We don't have any lieutenants at the moment. I don't know if you want to add another line for per diems, or if you wanted to group them all into firefighters. And then going off Steve's comment, I think Bob might have said it too. I don't know where the right section would be for this. Maybe, like you were saying, maybe adding a risk section, but the potential purchase of assets from Western isn't included. So that's all I have.
I believe the question of purchasing assets, I think that got brought up to Mr. Angel. I think we were still waiting on an answer from him for that.
Okay. Let's certainly add that to the document as well as note it for a information.
I can speak, I guess fairly confidently from Central Coventry. We're not selling you anything. It's yours.
Ditto, Hopkins Hill.
My point, and I have a question for you, sir. Taxpayers of Western Coventry have already paid for all your apparatus, all your equipment. So acquisition of that equipment, so the municipal department would repurchase the equipment, would purchase the equipment from the Western Coventry taxpayers, and then have to repurchase the equipment again. So your taxpayers would pay for the equipment twice?
Partly. So the equipment in Western Coventry, the fire engines, the station, whatever, we have about I think we're under $800,000 left on the mortgage. And I think we took a 4-year lease on the truck, but we set this money aside. We could fully pay it off, but we wanted to keep the cash on hand. So yeah, so if first off, the taxpayers would be getting a good deal in Western Coventry. The building costs about $2 million to build. It's valued right now at about $3.5 million. The money will go directly back to the taxpayers. The municipal department would have to pay for purchasing, as it says in our town charter. You negotiate to purchase the equipment and the buildings and everything else that goes along with it. Should that be sold to the town? We're about 10% of the population. So the taxpayers of Western Coventry would be paying for about 10% of the building, not 100% of the building. Same as we'll be absorbing, I mean, Anthony's not going to sell anything, but they have a negative cash value, I mean, right now. So you know, we're in the West are going to be absorbing a lot of debt that we had nothing to do with. I mean, Hopkins Hill right now, or next year, not Hopkins Hill, Anthony, I think 40 cents on every dollar of salary is going to be going to MERS. Those weren't contracts negotiated by Western, but we're going to be paying it. So yeah, there'll be some spreading of debt. And I think the taxpayers, just so that they can put it towards their future tax increases, which a lot of it they had nothing to do with. So yeah, that's the thought process. It was brought to the board as a floor motion at the last meeting and the meeting before that, actually. So it was voted on by the taxpayers. It passed. That's the way they're looking at it.
How could you possibly redistribute that money to taxpayers in Western Coventry based on how long they've lived there, how much they've
The
paid?
motion was for the taxpayers of record at the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check that, but I think that's what the wording was.
Was that a district-wide vote or was just the people who
It
showed?
was a
up?
district. That was the annual meeting.
How many people attended?
I think probably about 50 attended, probably about 40 voted. It was unanimous. How many show up for any of these annual meetings?
Out of how many people that live in the district?
We have 1,700 houses roughly. I think there's about 3,200, 3,300. I don't know what the exact number of people are.
I'm just saying that if we decide to become a municipal apartment.
Right.
And we absorb Western Coventry's, the note on their building, and their equipment, Hopkins Hill's gonna do the same thing. We have a note,
Right.
a ladder truck.
Right.
And we did the same thing you did. We could have paid the truck off, but we like having cash on hand.
Right.
That's gonna be absorbed by the town.
Right.
Taxpayers are not gonna have to I mean, now, you look at the $800,000 you owe on your building would be spread out through the entire town.
It'll be paid off at the sale of the building.
But then the building would have to be repurchased by taxpayers of Coventry.
Right.
And now,
So so it's okay to spread the debt of districts out amongst the whole town.
but you'd be spreading the debt again when that building is purchased.
Would be distributing it once to the most of the town. 10% of it will be paid for by the taxpayers, but they're going to be getting enough money to pay off their 10% that they're going to have. So I don't see it's kind of like, you know, we're going down a rabbit hole, but two of the stations have a net negative cash value. If you put in there the retirement, the MERS, what's owed, plus the value of your buildings. You look at your last two audits, it's on the last couple of pages. You know, you're millions of dollars negative. So yeah, you don't have anything to sell back. I mean, you'd have to put that all towards your MERS. We don't. You know, it's like we're going to be funding lights that we don't have, water that we don't have, people who have already retired years ago that, you know, we didn't negotiate any of these contracts or anything. It's like, that's fine. I get that. But you can't say, yeah, take our debt, you know, but don't cash out what you have. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's a equitable situation there.
Well, I think in this situation in particular, we're just going to have a difference of viewpoint on this because, you know, obviously there's a combined version versus a stay version, you know, and that I think is the stuff that the town council and probably the residents are going to want to see too is, okay, well, yes, fundamentally you believe in that, but will I have better service? You know, fundamentally, I think this is what it's going to come down to, just as people talk. So the point I understand, because then that leads to the next intellectual conversation of, well, do I get to pick, you know, whether I have police service or education, and we go down that rabbit hole. But, you know, I think first we need to answer that legal question. That will be interesting. And I think you said it was in the charter. So that's, you know, that part.
Is
me.
a resolution from.
Okay. Resolution. Okay. So, you know, once we answer that, and then, you know, we'd have to look at that. And then, as Ms. Weinmiller pointed out, I think that needs to go into some kind of section like we were talking about. That is a risk to this operation, just to be frank with everyone, whether we like it or not. If that was the will of them and it's legally the way they can do it, it's something we need at least point out. You know, my
The
position.
charter says.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what it says, you know,
Yeah,
that's-
it's like, this is the first item is before you start a department, it's to negotiate with these districts, to see what you wanted to purchase out of the districts. I mean, I know it seems like the council lately has an issue with the charter or, well, you know, what's interpreted in it, but it's pretty black and white.
yeah, we have a lot of charter experts.
I know, I pay attention.
Personally think, I understand it was in our annual meeting. I personally think that the entirety of Western Coventry should vote on this, though.
Oh, and the council was opposed to us having that vote. That was a resolution that we went to the State House on and met in Providence. We were opposed by the union. The town council set a resolution.
All right, I don't want to get off into
I know, I'm
a
not, but I'm,
OMA violation though,
I agree with the
Yeah.
committee member one.
but that's also one of our questions for legal consideration. So, and, you know, get the answer and then, yeah, I know, that's on, I'm looking right at it.
Yep.
Enabling legislation, whether a townwide referendum is required, you know, so that's certainly something we still need to explore. And again, that was what I was alluding to earlier. I don't know how much the town council could decide based on this report with questions like that.
Right.
So, Understood. Anybody else? Keeping to the discussion of the document or jokes.
My name's spelled wrong.
Russ, when East Greenwich went from a fire district to a municipal department, did the fire district, did they require the town to purchase buildings, the apparatus, or anything in East Greenwich?
They did not. That was part of the enabling legislation. So as, the gentleman from Western Coventry mentioned, they accepted all the debts, all the pensions, all the contracts, all the service contracts, all the apparatus, problemed apparatus and new apparatus, all the payments, personnel, nobody had to reapply for their jobs. They literally, one day, Governor Chafee came down, signed it one day, and that was it. And that legislation was given to Mr. Angel, so he has a copy of it.
How well has that worked out?
Seamless. Went from one to the other. A lot of duplication was done away with. Tax collector went to the town. They were already doing some of the payroll work for us. They were already doing our accounts payable. So a lot of the stuff the town was started doing anyway. The fire district was using them for the services because it's one town, one taxpayer, one service. They literally just went East Greenwich Fire District to East Greenwich Fire Department at the swipe of a pen. Yep. And it went from a microscopic picture to a macro picture for the town's purposes. Where the fire district was selfish, looked at itself, took care of itself, worried about itself, but it was essentially a town of its own, probably just like you guys are. You've got your own, essentially a Parks and Rec department. You've got your own maintenance department. You've got your own payroll department. You've got your own HR department, where in that one swipe of a pen went all to the town, and we got to save those expenses and put them back towards operations.
One of the biggest things I see going from a fire district to municipal department too is having oversight, town oversight on everything that happens. Over the last 15 years, I've been with Hopkins Hill now for 22 years as a full-timer, 25 years, come my volunteer time. One of the biggest things I've seen over the years is basically mistakes made by different fire districts, by different board members getting elected, having a town-wide fire department, having one oversee the entire fire district, I think would work out a lot better for college.
Russ, regarding East Greenwich, did they renegotiate the contract, or they just took whatever was already in place?
No, they had to renegotiate. Yep.
All right. Any more topics of interest? We got a lot of things pointed out here tonight. Again, I'll reiterate, I think we have technical changes to the report itself. I think we have to obviously review tables, clean that stuff up. I've got 5 pages of notes here. We'll go back and make sure we have all that. I think one of the good things in here is we do have the options there. So if this is, a repetitive discussion, obviously, we have a district or some representatives from that district who are kind of hitting on the same things over and over again. We do have that in there, perhaps, as far as having Weston stay and the others combine. Maybe that's going to be something council people want to look at based on their district. Myself, I'm townwide, so the townwide argument makes more sense for me than maybe it would for someone from another district. You know, just throwing that out there. So maybe, you know, that's something we want to beef up once the council gets it and start to dig their teeth into it.
It was definitely more public fiscal accountability for the fire department when it became the fire department as opposed to the fire district. He had 40 people show up at a meeting. He's correct. Most of the districts don't get much more than that for their annual meetings. Sometimes we have to call people to show up just to pass the budget for the next year to get our annual meeting. However, with 7 elected officials in the town, full-time professional town manager running it, there's a lot more public fiscal accountability than there is now. And that was a positive for the town where they could see the books. It's not, hey, Hopkins Hill, how you guys doing? Oh, we're doing fine. Didn't you see our audit? It was, you know, the fire chief comes to every town council meeting. He answers questions. He reports to the town manager. Right now, the independent fire districts, the fire chief is his own town manager. He has to take care of all the same responsibilities Mr. Perillo does on a much smaller scale, but then it's just repetitive. It's one district after another, after another, after another, where all that stuff got streamlined and better managed when the town took it over. It also alleviated the headaches of the fire chief, and he could be the fire chief. He could do emergency management. He could do emergency operations. He could take care of doing all those times that you're worried about. I don't want to be the guy in Western Coventry who's got to hold my breath for 15 minutes for a truck to come from another town. What I think, with the numbers that we're talking, they're going to have a full-time truck out there all the time. And when they go on a rescue run and the rescue leaves, as Dan said, that truck's going to stay there. A full-time ALS, Advanced Life Support Engine out there with 2 people all the time is the exact same thing as a non-transport, it's called a non-transporting ambulance by the Department of Health. So when that truck is out there, it's got all the same equipment as Rescue 6, as Rescue 4, 24/7, all the time. And with this configuration, we can do that.
And they would essentially hold everything as best they can until there's a transport.
It's the same thing. It's an ambulance. You're just getting a ride by somebody different, but it's the same exact truck that shows up as you're getting Rescue 4, Rescue 7. I think every fire truck in the town is Advanced Life Support, at least on our end, licensed as a non-transporting ALS engine.
I just had a question on the numbers you just said. So if you go with phase 1, that's not what the staffing is. We don't have 2 trucks out in Western Coventry. You got 1.
Right.
I think we talked about at the last meeting was phase 1 was putting Rescue 7 back in service to give a better response towards the western end.
But that,
Phase was putting Engine 8 full-time as an ALS engine. And again, Engine 8 can cross-band with the tanker if needed at the time, but it's to put an ALS engine out in Western Coventry. That was phase 2. And I apologize. I just looked at it and I saw that there's still stuff from Brian Teston in there from the staffing levels.
Right. So
He asked me to put together, I put together with the run totals, and that's what we came up with. The best solution is getting Rescue 7, a full-time rescue, back in service. Then phase 2, putting another 8 people on in Western Coventry and putting Engine 8 in service as an ALS engine, like Russell was just saying.
So on the phase 1 portion, I thought the personnel was just adding, because the 57 was just adding 4 more people to make Anthony or Coventry Fire District having 2 vehicles being able to get out the door.
We had talked about that, and we decided at one of the meetings, I was June or July, that it would be more beneficial having a second full-time rescue in service.
If I may, that discussion was even earlier than that, and there were numbers that came from Brian, and that discussion was clear about loading more people at Central to be able to go out to the West End in a faster, more timely manner. That goes back to May even,
Within the
before that.
phase 1 numbers that the budget is based on, if you're doing phase 1, was only showing 4 more firefighters.
The numbers would be the same because you can move them. If you're one big, they're not staying in Anthony. They
Okay, so you're gonna, Anthony will be,
they'd go back to 2 people. Because
So go back to two people. Okay,
I already
all
have
right.
Rescue 4 and I have Rescue 6 on this end of the town.
Okay, no,
We're deficient on the outsides.
We depend on West Warwick and West Warwick depends on us. Like we keep discussing, we have abundance of apparatus on the eastern end of town
Mhm.
with help from West
No,
Warwick,
yep, and
Cranston, and East Greenwich.
Yeah.
It's the western end, and that's when we, like we said, we talked about it, is getting Rescue 7 put back in service.
all right, because I didn't, the staffing notes I had different.
So Dan, does the last document you sent me include what you just said?
Yes, it does. And
Okay.
I sent that stuff out, and I didn't.
Put it in.
Bounce back and forth. The homework I put together with Hillary was that response, like going out to Woodpecker Hill Nursing.
Yeah.
what Response time would be, and what it would be if I put Rescue 7 back in service.
So the response times and the staffing is part of your,
That's all.
yeah, well, we can include that. I think the question now, Chairman, is do we think this report's ready for Tuesday? If not, we have to do a lot of work by tomorrow morning to get it on an agenda.
Say the second part again, if it's not ready?
If we.
I don't think
if it-
it's ready.
If we want it for the council on Tuesday, all these changes have to be made by tomorrow morning.
Right, just due to the posting.
Correct. If not, then we wait till the next meeting.
I mean, is there a situation where we can mark a draft and submit it for informational purposes and no vote? So that way we at least,
Again,
Even marking it as a draft, though, it sounds like there's some substantial differences.
so it's not, okay, I see what you're saying, good point. So it's not just, cleaning up here and there. There is some information that we know we need to correct. And, as I said when we started, I was hesitant to want to present something like that. But, that discussion right here, which I think was very fruitful because I think we actually ended up thinking something was okay on both sides a little bit, or at least we agree. So I'd hate to lose that momentum by not having the correct stuff in there, because then we'd have to actually have this conversation again with the council. And
like I said too, I know the solicitor's working on final memo. So the solicitor's memo is a big part of this. And also, MERS information is going to take longer, but we haven't initiated that. We haven't appropriated the funds for that study yet. So I don't know if that could be a deciding factor as well. So, and how long do you want to wait for that?
yeah, I mean, certainly, some of this stuff is directional. We want to know what direction people want to get more information in. I guess the only caveat I want to know is, are we going to be, without presenting this to the council or in some form or fashion, in violation of any kind of delivery dates or anything we had with the enabling legislation of the commission?
We've already missed the original date for a poor product as well. This is a very important decision
Yeah.
for the future of this town. So I think the document needs to be as tidy as it can and answer as many questions as it can before it's presented. Because like you said, the council is going to have the same question here as.
Mhm.
So, but it's up to the commission what they want to do regarding tomorrow for Tuesday's meeting or the following meeting, which is September 22nd, I believe.
Well, I think I'm the newest one here, so I'm going to rely on, get some feedback on you guys. Tell me what you think.
I actually have a question. And again, I know these have to be open meetings. Is there a way that we can get together with the committee and kind of put together a document, present it at maybe the next meeting? So Mr. Bosquet, everybody can actually physically see what we're gonna give to the town council?
I mean, we can schedule another fire commission meeting and have that,
What I mean is
create
us.
like a
But-
workshop.
But I think what email and stuff back and forth, I think some things are getting missed, they're getting overlapped, they're getting duplicated, and I see the frustration. I think what we need to do is get together, maybe a Friday afternoon or something, sit down and come up with a documentation that we like, that everybody agrees upon for the commission, and then we then present it to the taxpayers that are here at the meeting, and then we present it to the town council.
I can follow up with the solicitor to see how we can schedule a workshop so we can actually meet and get all these.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating part. Some of this stuff is going to be as simple as swapping a table.
I mean, you guys are already a committee. I know when we do stuff in the district, as far as we can make a subcommittee, as long as we don't have a majority of the members on it, then this doesn't need to be OMA, but it would be, you'd have to figure out who's attending and all that type of stuff.
All right. Well, I definitely agree. This is more than maybe polishing. Um, I don't want to drag things out just to drag them out, but I think some of the stuff in here is more than a drafting fix. So, with respect to your comments, I think that makes sense to almost be able to do some of this more on the fly as a group and just, this is where I want to go with a lot of things in town. Let's agree on the finances that we all at least know what we're talking about and we all agree in reality. Then there's a policy discussion and we can have all those other kinds of things. But, if we've got some stuff in here that, is a little too rough, then, those are my thoughts is that at least we can agenda item something to give the council an update informally without a draft. So we're not producing documents with errors, to at least let them know where we stand, perhaps, if that's a medium ground we can do.
Yeah, we can docket it for Tuesday night as that we had this meeting, this is what came out of the meeting, an update, and pretty much the fire commission wants more time to polish up the document to present to council. We could give them an update Tuesday evening. We can agenda that item under that discussion model.
Okay, and then in the meantime, work towards a way we can, obviously follow in OMA to workshop this and make sure that,
I'll talk to the solicitor, whether, like Mr. Bousquet said, do we set up a subcommittee of the commission or able to set up a workshop? I'll see what the best way to handle that is, so we have more cooks in the kitchen, so everything is really straightforward and there's no lingering questions as to the future of this report.
I mean, we've only had until, from 1741 to get this right. It's dragging.
This is not the first committee who's ever talked about this either. I do have one question. So what happens to what happens to your people? Do you want us to take your employees while you sell while you sell the rest of the stuff? What happens to the employees? Yeah, but you're telling us you're gonna sell the stuff. You have a mandate. So what do we do with the people?
We got to do this on the mic if we're going to have the discussion, if you want to come
Sorry.
up. If you don't,
No, I just wondered what would happen to his personnel. I didn't know what he
valid
thought.
questions.
I was asking him, what are you gonna do with your personnel, with your
Well, the
employees?
same thing that would happen to your personnel, and we wouldn't be doing anything unless there's a motion that the town's, going to purchase the department. The full-timers have work agreements. Their work agreements are that their contracts continue on, just as the chief at Hopkins Hill has a wording in his agreement that says that he'll maintain his position.
When you sell your fire department, you cease to exist, right?
Well, we're not, actually, that's not true. The districts, regardless of what happens with the town, the districts, Hopkins Hill, everybody, they still exist. You're all quasi-government agencies, departments that are sanctioned by the state. Your district will still be there to collect debt. You may have people who owe taxes that haven't paid them yet. You may have bills that haven't come in yet. Your personnel is still your personnel. They stay with the district. They have agreements with the district, but their agreements are that if their positions are eliminated, that their positions were, couldn't be lost due to consolidation, liquidation, or merging with a municipality. Same as your chief at Hopkins Hills. We actually almost copied word for word his agreement. So, this is the same sort of position that he would be in, that they would be in. Per diem members don't have agreements. Per diem members have, we do training, we do stuff. We don't have any forced hours that they have to work. And, we have some regulars that work quite a bit and some that work less. But the full-timers all have, usually they're 3-year agreements that go on.
How many full-time employees do you guys have now?
5, 6, I guess, if you include chief. And about 40 per diem.
My question is, you have you have one collective bargaining agreement for all four of your employees and then one for the chief? Or you have
They all have individual agreements with,
individual
yep. They're not contracts. I mean, they're work agreements if they want to come, go, whatever, but yeah, yeah,
You're saying that they have a work agreement,
yep.
agreement, is it a contract or is it just a handshake agreement?
No, it's a signed written agreement between the worker and the district, and it has a start date and an end date, and usually they're 3-year terms from the date they're hired. You know, saying when their raises will be, is, you know, spells out, it's very similar, you know, how many hours of vacation, the whole, all their benefits, you know. Which is something I think Jillian asked if they wanted copies of or had some, and I don't know if you guys ever looked at them. It's kind of why we wanted to have somebody from the department on this committee, but we were not allowed, so.
Did you say 40 per diems? I'm sorry, Mr. Buskey. Did you say 40? 40.
Something I think is important, and I think it was asked for, I'm not sure that it came up, but there's discussions about selling assets, and then at one of the previous meetings, what's the value of those assets? We heard some numbers thrown around. Has that been provided? What you want for each one of these vehicles that are listed on here? And that was submitted to the committee, okay? That includes the building too? And the garage that's up on 117 by the pond is included in that. So that number is available.
Yeah, and I think somebody made that point earlier, is maybe we should get that in here and list it out and include that.
So, you know, the station, the main station, we're having a professional commercial appraisal done. Not having it done on the old green station. The assessed value, the green is like 350,000. I mean, our replacement cost on our station is, I think, like, I can't remember off the top of my head, 3.4 million. That doesn't include land. So, I mean, but that's what they are.
Great. Anybody else?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So just a comment, when, talking about the legislation and the districts continue, that's obviously a big legal question, one of the items the solicitor needs to look into. But my understanding, when these mergers or consolidations have occurred in the past in other communities, those other districts, as soon as the consolidation happened, the legislative authority that created those districts that no longer exist dissolves, because those districts were created to be a taxing authority. If they no longer have that taxing authority ability, legislation at the state cancels their ability. So where it was just stated that they would still collect back taxes, fees owed, debt, I believe that's inaccurate.
I think
But
that's
again,
the
that's
way
a
a lot
legal
of
matter.
guys are set up, as soon as their debt either is defeased or they have no longer revenue authority. So that's, again, another,
It's going to be a legal issue, but I think if you look at other communities, those other districts dissolved.
The way the charter reads for the town is that the taxing authority for fire services is barred. But if you have debt, or we owe debt, if someone had debt, the district still has to collect money. If it happened to go in that scenario, the district would have to collect money to pay that debt. So,
That would be absorbed by the town, correct?
Yeah.
No,
possibly, but we're talking that's all after merger. But our legal opinion was that the district still exists as far as that part of it goes.
I have one question for you, and I don't mean to interrupt.
Yep.
What would be your best solution that you feel would be the best solution for this problem?
I think, I'm going to tell you what I've said for 12 years now, that the eastern departments should have gotten together a long time ago, that even regardless if it was municipal or if it was a standalone district, you had two stations that had one chief, you had two unions and one, in two of the bill. It's like, it should have been such an easy merge. If this was such a simple moving forward type of thing, it would have helped with manning, would have helped with budgeting, would have helped with a lot of stuff. You could have got that to a level where debt and stuff is pretty balanced out, then it would be easier to merge going forward. I still think that's the way it should be. I think the municipal, as much as I understand what you're saying as far as it'd be great to have, everything on the same page, it is two separate worlds as far as the east and west parts of the town. And for the same reason, there's no professional departments all the way up and down Route 102. The population density is actually a burden to the municipal setup that you're trying to design. It's like the amount of taxes that you're deriving from a sparsely populated area and saying it's the same part as the eastern part of the town are two different animals. If you guys were all fully staffed, we would be doing, and if we were staying in our district and weren't going out, we averaged about 2 calls a day. So for 2 calls a day, if everybody else is good, you guys, we're gonna put 2, that's great. It's great, but for 2 calls a day, that's a lot of manpower that's gonna be sitting out in Western Coventry. So yes, we all have mutual aid, so I get that. So that's, well, yeah, we provide more than we receive. So that would continue. I mean, there's no reason why that wouldn't. And if you're saying they're going to be staffed better, then that's even better. There'll be more mutual aid to go around, and maybe we can balance out that number so we're not kind of lopsided. But in a normal scenario, the way it used to be, the way it was, it's 2 calls a day in Western Coventry. Our population hasn't changed drastically, and it's not going to go in. If there's no big tracts of land that are being subdivided up out there. There's no big stores coming in or pieces. It's 5-acre build lots, even with what the state would like to do in cluster housing and stuff like that. It's not gonna, it'll be slow growth at best, maybe one day we'll get up to 3 calls a day. But on general, and that's not even all transports, that's 2 calls, doesn't necessarily mean they were both transports. It's like, that's what we averaged up until, now all of a sudden we're, 1,000 calls in a year, and 500 plus are out of district. So that's what I think. I mean, but I've been saying that for 15 years before we even had a municipal discussion. I thought the departments should have gotten together on the eastern part, set together.
I think call volume, I look at a loss of life.
Yep.
That's why most of us sit here and look at this. I look at, you say 2 calls a day.
Mhm.
That could be 2 kids choking. That could be 2 pregnant moms giving birth. You look at call volume.
Right,
I say the same exact thing. I look at life safety.
right. But there is a certain,
Back and forth.
right,
My number one concern is making sure that person all the way down.
right. And so how does that change, though?
She gets the same
How-
services.
And so how does that change if eastern side of town is fully staffed and Western stayed independent? And the other day, we had a motorcycle crash on 102. We had 2 vehicles there. We had rescue and an engine, which later got joined by another engine and then a rescue who they say have a command that they can self-dispatch, which we had more people in Western Coventry that were unneeded, but, I guess it's a new thing that people can self-dispatch themselves and go wherever they want to go. We had it covered with 2 vehicles, and we have more probably paramedics on our staff-wise than some of the eastern departments have. I mean, our quality of that in what we can get out. But there's always been a certain point where you can't just say, okay, it'd be great to have more. It's for the same reason why we don't have fire stations every 5 miles. You could say, well, that'd give you even better coverage, and that could be loss of life. There is, as much as we hate to say it, there is a point where, it becomes, what can you do? How far can you make the money go and get it? But yeah, I would love to say, yeah, let's do it. But you asked me my opinion. That's just my thought. I always thought Eastern should have gotten together a long time ago, and you might not be over the barrels we're over now.
I mean, this is something that's relevant to the, report and the topic tonight because that's an option. So, maybe that's another section we want to beef up as pros and cons in that section. And maybe it is the call volume versus dying. And then we put that in there and, again, just in the, to be intellectually honest about the discussion.
I think that yes, but there needs to be more than 40 people voting on it, is my point. Like, just because those 40 people voted that way doesn't mean that the rest will. Like, I actually voted no on this. I don't think Marianne saw me, but it wasn't unanimous because I value my life. Maybe it's just what I do for a job. I understand what happens, and I think it's very dangerous personally, but
Yeah, and I mean, again, just townwide perspective, a lot of people from other districts are traveling in Western, and should they be involved in something,
a lot of people don't even know that this commission is going.
yeah, that wouldn't be the thought in their head would be, how did we vote on that?
Right.
Yeah.
I've said this to Hillary multiple times. I've said it to our board multiple times. I do think that we need, I don't know about the other 3 districts. You guys seem to know what you're doing, but no, like with this, not, not that way, like, I think that we do need to get a majority of the taxpayers. 40 people are not a majority taxpayers out there. They need to know the good, the bad, and the ugly with everything and make an informed decision because, like Dan said, this is life or death, potentially. I mean, I ride my horses out in Carbuncle. I haven't done it in over a year because I didn't know, am I going to get staffing at one point? That's not okay. And it's because of all the mutual aid that we've been doing or the staffing that we had at the time. It's not always the safest thing. And I think personally, and like I said, I do this for a job, so whatever. But what Dan said, Station 7, Station 8, I think that is a good compromise for what we want. But we need everyone to vote. It's more than just 40 people who go to every single annual meeting and vote the same way. I'm sorry. I've been on this board multiple years and I've seen it. Probably won't get reelected now, but that's okay.
I appreciate you
As of right
giving
now,
that context.
as of right now, we have about 50 career firefighters on this side of the town, full-time. We're not that far off of getting the numbers to get some staffing at Station 7, to get that extra rescue and service. I think public safety is an essential function of the town government. It's not something that, as a taxpayer, that you guys could say, let's give that to somebody else to take care of. That's an essential function of my taxes to the town. As a taxpayer, public safety is your responsibility. I think the town absolutely has to, in my opinion, do this thoughtfully, properly with a plan, but I don't think you're that far off at all. As far as debt, every fire district is solvent. Nobody's filing bankruptcy. Everybody's got their budgets. They're making payroll now. If you took it over tomorrow, you'd make payroll the next day. The numbers won't change until the plan starts getting fetted out.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I just want to throw one thing out about districts. I've been firefighter in town with Dan for 22 years full-time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Name and address for the
I
record. Yeah,
propose 9 Gillis Street.
thank you.
So the only thing I want to throw out about districts, and I want you folks to think about this, is, again, I've been in this town, there were 7 districts. People got together and the thing about districts is when they're running great, and we've always said this, we have great equipment and all that stuff. But when you get someone that's got an axe to grind and you get a board that's in there that absolutely destroys the district, and that's been done in this town. All right. So when you have that kind of 40 people coming in to make a vote, 40 people that have an axe to grind destroys what's going on in this fire service in this town. This town needs a municipal fire department because it needs a board of people with level heads that know what safety is in the town and to take care of this town. So these little districts don't work anymore, okay? Because you get people that are just angry and just want to destroy things. And that's the whole purpose. And that goes for people in the state that actually come in and actually get people on the boards to destroy this district. I've seen it. So that's what's wrong with this town. It needs to be municipal because we need to have a few people on the board, all talking together, level heads, taking care of what goes on in this town. Thank you.
Public safety is number one, not destroying the town.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to before. You know, we can always come back and play with the numbers. If we can get that to the side because we know we're all 95% in agreement on the laws and the numbers, then I think this discussion can be focused on what is our number one priority? What's the council's role in the town? Do we favor townwide government over individual district wishes? You know, that's what I want to get to. And I think in this report should key that up. And this report shouldn't be questionable on the facts. And then, you know, that's where the rest goes. Manager Perillo.
I think, obviously, like you said, public safety has to be the key. One thing we really haven't talked about is timeline. Now, I know some people think that we can just turn the switch and it's a municipal department. Other people think it's gonna take a little longer. So I think we need to really evaluate what this whole process is, and that's gonna obviously include what the solicitor says, whether we need legislation, whether we need a referendum, whatever that process is. But I just don't think that, like Russ said, that went from district to municipal department in East Greenwich pretty quickly. There's a lot more contours to this consolidation. So I think it's gonna take a little longer than what some people may think.
Yeah, that is the one caveat. There was one fire district in the town of East Greenwich. Same, contiguous borders as the rest of the town. It went quick because it was just one choice.
So question is I do now, so let's get back to the point of what we have to fix on this report.
Do it. So, obviously we'll be able to go back and watch the tape. I don't know how we want to do it administratively on your side, Dan. If everybody tonight, like I know some people have already emailed their notes because they want a sticker and I'll get you one. But if that works, I think you submitted stuff we just maybe missed. So I don't know. We can tackle that. If anybody here at least knows they sent something in that, I don't care if it's a screenshot of your phone with notes on it of, what you wrote down. Let's start getting that stuff in. And then we gotta get a draft. We gotta circulate it. And I think we have to hold each other's feet to the fire to read it in front of everybody and workshop it through whatever the legal mean is.
I already have Dan's response time breakdown in his chart. If everyone else can just email me the points that you brought up tonight, just so I may already have it, but be easier if you can just send it to me, whatever was brought up tonight regarding changes to this document. And then we can get those together. And like I said, we'll talk to the solicitor to find out how we can either go the subcommittee route or just have a workshop without violating OMA.
I have a question. I don't know if it'll violate OMA. What about a online format, say Google Docs, for example, where we can all see in real time it changing, can potentially change if you want us to. I don't know if that would violate OMA because we're not actually talking to each other, but we are changing the same thing. Then we wouldn't have to form subcommittees and stuff. Rolling quorum, okay.
There's always something. Good idea, though. There's always something, though. I know that. Yeah. It's probably pizza and beer at Dan's house.
Can we have a workshop meeting under this umbrella? Can we sit here and bring the documentation up, set it out here, go through the documentation? Highlight stuff we like, stuff we dislike, all up here on the table under the public eye?
Could we do that right now? Does everybody have time? We're here. If we want to do the Tuesday meeting, maybe we could, I don't know.
And
I don't have to work till 7 AM, so.
We need to.
What?
Well, that we have access to all these documents right now,
Okay.
right? So some of the phases or the charts that are in here came from the council president. She had put that together, and then we added some of the other items, so.
I mean, it
think-
sounded like a lot of those we're not even using.
I think a lot of stuff has to be removed. That's why I said I think it would be a good idea for us to come up here, put the documentation up here on the desk and go through stuff that we like, dislike. We can cut, paste, put it together. That way, when we have something, it's not just a rough draft, but it's a good start to something we're gonna hand to the town council. Because again, we're looking back at that, I looked through it and there's stuff from the first couple of meetings that we've already talked about and said, no, that's not a good idea. So I think going forward, we need to put that stuff out here, hard copies of it, so we all have the same stuff and work through it.
I mean, we have
Saying.
6 months of documents.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that, again, we went through it, or the council president, chairperson went through it. She picked some stuff out, we picked out some stuff out. Obviously, we can't include everything. We tried to put things together based on what we felt was the most important items. Again, we are missing the solicitor's part, we're missing MERS. And we want to talk about acquisitions and what that number could possibly look like, how we're going to fund that. So there's definitely some big pieces that are missing. Correct.
We have it mostly in a repository now, though, right? At least. Did we dump it all somewhere?
Cody has it all on the
So-
website in one place.
So, and I don't know if this is technically possible, but, put it up on the screens or, make it a live document as we're doing it to say, no, I mean, put that chart right there. And we, this is what we're talking about, right? Like you're saying, okay. Digital and hard copy, old school meets new school.
Can we talk about having a meeting on, say, like Thursday, the 18th or something? That's what, 2 weeks from today?
Can we do it
From today?
sooner than that? I just don't know when, so. Next month.
18th, good here.
I'm just looking at one, I'm trying to pick a date that Kevin and I are not, so.
Yeah, we'll have to send an email and get around. I mean, I'd vote for it because I know I won't be here, but I don't know if that'd be fair.
Do Thursday?
I don't know. I think this all got rolled up when we first started it, but at this point, we keep circling the wagons here.
Tuesday, the 9th,
I mean, you don't have to do it for me, but
too soon? It's council meeting?
about the 10th.
They can cancel that.
We're not giving it to them anyway. We're good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Realistically, you need a couple of weeks, right?
yeah, the only thing that's going
2
on.
weeks to gather together?
I mean, realistically, but
The week of the
we
15th.
have other deadlines to worry about. But yeah, let's get that going. Let's get an email going or something. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we make sure we bring a college professor to do the proofreading.
If we have one available, there's. All right. I think so. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion seconded. All those in favor, vote aye. Meeting is adjourned, 7:00.